Hey, welcome back. Tonight I'm going to get started on this rod bearing stuff. Um, so what I'm kind of trying to do right now is I have a set of ACL bearings that I want to install on the S54. And as I said before, this S54 is um, has the older version of the rod bolts that are reusable. So the M11 bolts, and I can reuse them and torque them as many times as I want without having to buy new bolts. So that's good for me. And I've got so much disassembled right now, and ACL bearings are good. I've used them before. I've usually just slapped them in and not had any issues, but this time, since I'm here, I might as well go ahead and check bearing clearances. And so I want to use plastic gauge. I got it from O'Reilly's, and it's this stuff right here. And as you can see, I've gone ahead and pulled out the first set of rod bearings, and they don't look too terrible. This is the top bearing shell. It's got a little copper showing on the side, but nothing terrible. There are the new ACL bearings here, and here is the rod cap. And so with these are kind of important. You need to make sure that you keep the bolts on the proper side they came from. So I marked this bolt to make sure it goes with this side, which I marked, and this side is not hard to mix up because it has this engraving right here, and that engraving is only on one side of the connecting rod itself right there. And the reason that's important is because the way these connecting rods are made is they're actually split by some type of process that the manufacturer uses, and so you can't install the rod cap the wrong way. If you look very closely, you'll see that there's ridges inside the mounting area. Let's see if we can get it to focus right there. It's a GoPro, sorry. And if you look over here, there are similar ridges here. And let's see, it's probably not going to focus that well. But anyways, they only go one way, and there it's made from one solid piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use plastic gauge, cut it to the length, and lay it sideways. And there's lots of videos of people that I've already watched on how they do this. So this isn't like a DIY or anything like that. And I'm going to go through the full torque sequence. And then once I do that, I'll unbolt it, take the rod cap off, check the thickness of the plastic gauge, which I'll come back and show you. And then if that's good, then I'll move on to the next one. So let me get some things set up and I'll be right back. Alright, so at this point what I've done is I have my plastic gauge piece right there. It's a little bright because of the light. It's hard to see. It's right there in the middle. And I've cleaned with the microfiber towel and some brake cleaner the journal surface. I've also cleaned the inside of the bearing cap. I've installed the bottom bearing shell as well. And I'm going to install, as you can see, here are the numbers. They match up with the numbers there because their numbers are only on one side. And I'm going to drop this in place. You want to get it as straight as possible so that you don't disturb that plastic gauge. Okay. And the rod bearing fits right on there. And I'm going to go through the torque sequence. So let me put the camera up. So the first one is we have my yellow bolt with the yellow marking here, so it's going to go in here. The other one goes in here. And basically you want to snug them up. You're not tightening anything at this point, just snugging them up. And I have my cheap Harbor Freight torque wrench. Don't make fun of it. So it looks like 5 Newton meters is equal to about 3.6 foot-pounds. So I've already set it on here to about 3.6, if you can trust the little hash marks. And so the first round, we'll go with the first torque sequence. The next one is 30 Newton meters, 22.1 foot-pounds of torque. Reset it, come up to 0, go up to 20. '21, 22. So it's 22.1. So we'll go to that in 0.5. Alright, so this is the next torque sequence. Alright, so the final step is the stretch sequence. You don't use a torque wrench for that. I have this nifty little torque angle gauge. It's old school, not digital or anything like that. And the way this works, I had to watch a few videos on it. This arm is supposed to be used to either rest on something while you turn to it. There's a few different ways to use it. But anyways, since there's not really much around here, I had to play around earlier off camera and find what resting place I'm going to use. There's these little oil holes right here that I'm going to use that I can put this in. And once this is in here, and I have my ratchet set, I know that that's at 70 degrees and I can rotate this dial back to 0, leaving this in place so that when I do in one single stroke, turning until this goes from 0 to 70. So let's give that a shot. So I know I'm at 70 now, so now I'm going to rotate this back to 0. And it gets a little tough, so I'm going to use a breaker bar. We can go to 70. All right, so that's one. So now I need to do the other one. All right, so I know my indicator is right here. It's not moving, and that's 70 degrees. So I'm going to rotate this dial up to 0. We're going to rotate to the 70. degrees. So now that's the torque sequence completed. Now all I have to do is loosen it, and then we will check the numbers. All right, cool. Bring you down so you can see what's going on. So now we have our plastic gauge right there, and I'm just going to get something to measure it. You can see there's a little residue there that I'll clean off. Bearing clearances for BMW, the rod bearings are supposed to be between 0.030 and 0.070. So what we have here, you can't really read it. It's 0.025, 0.038, 0.051, and 0.76. So we should fall within this range. So we're looking for the thickness. And this one is right on the money of being 0.051. So that is right between, a little on the tighter side, between 0.03 or a looser side of 0.030 to 0.070. But it's within spec. So that's good. So I know I say so a lot, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll clean everything up and get this all cleaned up and torqued down and get to the number 6, and I'll report back with the findings on all of them. Hey, okay, so I'm back. It is the next day, and I've done 4 sets of rod bearings, cylinders 1, 2, 5, and 6. I still have 3 and 4 to go, but out of all of that, I just was not trusting my torque wrench. I have the cheapy Harbor Freight ones, the 1/2 inch, and then I have a 3/8 one, and I watched a ton of videos about the accuracy of them, and most of them were not good. Some of them were showing as much as 17% inaccurate compared to the 4% accuracy that they claim on the little certificate when you get the box. So I felt like that was just a little too sketchy when you're dealing with rod bearings or head bolts that I'm going to be doing soon. So I went ahead and I watched some more videos on digital torque adapters, and this one came up along with something from AC Delco. This one consistently outperformed the AC Delco version, and it's a digital unit. I'll go ahead and turn it on. And you can use it on any 3/8 ratchet, and not you don't use it on a torque wrench like this. However, I was putting it on the torque wrench so that I can see when this beeps showing me it reaches the indicated setting of 30 Newton meters, where does this click? And so just to give me some peace of mind, so what I wanted to do was I put it on here, and you'll be able to see it'll beep when I get to 30, and we want to see when this thing actually clicks. All right, so as you can see, it clicked at 27 foot-pounds or 27 Newton meters. So let's do it again, see how consistent it is. 27, 28, 26. So this torque wrench, I can't trust it. It may be good, but I just can't trust those numbers. So we'll go and pull this off. Put that away. I'll be using this, and I'm just going to redo all the torque sequence on it, which is not bad, but all the rod bearings are installed for 1, 2, 5, and 6. I only have to do 3 and 4, and once I do 3 and 4, I'll use this to do 3 and 4, and then I'll redo the torque sequence for 1, 2, 5, and 6. And one thing that was actually pretty cool, let's see. So I'm going to pull these up here. So I made marks on the caps before I even did anything. And then going through the torque sequence and tightening sequence and the stretch sequence, it ended up lining up on them. And the same things for 2 and 5. So, I mean, who knows what that means? It's obviously not the best indicator, but because I did it with the method with my old torque wrench, I would love to see the difference on if they land back in the same spot using the new torque wrench, or will it be before or after this? So we'll see. But I'm gonna go ahead and get started on doing these two. And I guess we'll go ahead and just record this process. But let me put the camera up. Okay, let's go ahead and release this guy. So this one looks like I forgot to do my markings. Should have done that first. But originally I put those markings there not as any type of indicator for if I'm putting it back in the same orientation. Really, it was just so that I know that this bolt came from this side. So we will deal with just this guy. Next thing is so we got close up look at that. And here bearing out there. Go add it to. You can see the wear on that. Apparently the top bearings or the rod side of the bearing, not the cap part, have the most wear. And that's been consistent. All of the top ones have had wear very similar to this. So next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna clean this up. And the next thing I want to do is I kind of want to come through here underneath the bottom of it so that I can get that other side clean. I guess it's really not that necessary because you're just going to be putting assembly lube on the bottom half anyways. You really just need to clean the top half for the plastic gauge. Alright, should be good right there. So here is the new bearings, the ACL bearings. These have been coated. And so we're just going to clean a little bit. Hi.
Hi.
Oh. Alright, good night.
Hi.
Just got a visit from my son. He's going to sleep. Alright, so we want to clean that up and we're going to, insert it into this connecting rod right here on this side. And so, because I don't want to push the piston out from the cylinder, I have to hold it from the bottom so that I can get this bearing snapped in place. Okay, so we have that in. And we'll put some assembly lube in here. And we'll get that in there. We are going to push this rod back down so that I can swivel it over, and then I can go ahead and push it back up. All right, so you have this back on. Give it more cleaning so that the plastic gauge will go in there. And I'm going to stop the camera right now because I know my battery is about to die. I'm going to change batteries and I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Battery has been changed. So here's the plastic gauge. I'm going to just cut a little bit off. just going to put it right there. Okay. I'm going to clean the other rod bearing shell. Here's the top one. I'm just going to clean it. Alright, so top shell is in, and then we're going to go make sure that my mark is going to the right side, and no assembly lube on this for now, just because we're doing measurements. Okay. Alright, so we're snugging them up. Get the torque wrench adapter ready. So I'm going to turn it on. So this one only beeps at 5.9 foot-pounds of torque and above, but it will still read below that. So I'm on Newton meters right now. So the first torque sequence is 5 Newton meters to set the torque. Let me see here. Alright, so I'm at 6 Newton meters right there. Five Newton meters right there. And then now we want to go to 30 Newton meters. All right, that's 30.7 Newton meters. .8 Newton meters. So then we need to go 70 degrees further for the torque angle. So with this, I still don't have a good torque angle gauge. It was like $180 for a torque wrench that was digital and had torque angle in it. And so yeah, anyways, there's that. At least I have something. So these can be reliable. You just have to make sure to use them the right way, and you have to be careful with your placement that nothing moves and fidgets. So we're gonna do this one first. Basically what you want to do is the way I use it is you adjust this arm so that you get some play in it. You can move it in and out, you can swivel it, just so that, and what I want to do is I want to put it somewhere that I know it's going to be like a hard stop, and it also rotates this way. So I'm going to stop it right about there. So I'm going to lock this down. And so I know right now that as long as this doesn't move and I rotate this to 0, I hold this, I can hold it with this hand and torque it down. And as I torque it down, I'm going to watch this go all the way to 70, and that should be it. So I'm going to put this here. All right, so if I set it here, I start pulling, it hasn't actually moved, the dial has play in it. So now that I've taken up the slop in it, I'm going to rotate this back to 0, and I'll hold this down, and I'm going to torque. That's 70, yep. So you let off. And so that's set right there. So you kind of repeat the process for this one, same thing. You want to find a spot that this is going to stop at. So I think that's good. So I know that's 70. I'm going to turn this back to 0. So I've taken up the slop. I'm going to rotate this back. Hold this while I go 70 degrees. Yep, 70 degrees. All right, so now that's torqued down. We did 5 Newton meters, 30 Newton meters, and then 70 degrees torque angle further to stretch the bolt. So now, since we're plastic gauging, we're going to just take them off. Good. Pull these back out. These to the side. See if we can get this cap off. All right, got the cap off. We see the plastic gauge there. Okay, so now we have this fancy thing right here. So this gives us the range. So this plastic gauge measures between 0.025 to 0.076. The BMW bearing clearance, acceptable clearance, is between 0.030 and 0.070. So we're going to line this up to the thickness of that. And just like all the other bearings, which is good, it's right around the 0.051 mark. And I will see if I can move my finger so you can actually see it. Yep, so 0.051. So that means that this bearing clearance is good. All of them have come out to 0.051. So that it's not exact, but it's close enough, and it gives you a little confidence boost that it's going to be okay. Alright, so now we are ready to do the whole torque sequence over again. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap that up. I don't want to make this too long of a video. I'll just show the important parts. And I'll get on to the other one, and then we'll be back with some other stuff. Hey guys. Alright, so I'm back, and I finished the rod bearing job. Let's take a look at the rod bearings. So here we have all 6, and what I've done, I've gone through and I've marked all the bearing clearances that I plastic gauged right here. They're not all exactly 0.051. Some were a little bit above, a little bit below, but there's no way to measure that exact number, but they were close, and they're all within spec. And you can see all of the top bearings all have very similar wear compared to the bottom bearings. So you can see a few were showing copper, nothing terrible, but it was time for a change. So all that is done, and we have all of these done. And surprisingly, even after doing the torque sequence with the new digital torque adapter and using the same torque angle tool, the manual one, it's still lined up. Not sure what that means, but I'll take it as a good sign. These, on the other hand, were a little bit different. They were off-center just by a little, and that could be due to stretch. But we have, all of them have assembly lube. Feels nice and smooth, nothing feels tight, which is good. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to do it too much because I don't want to use up all that assembly lube, because I'm going to turn this engine several more times when I go to put the cylinder head on and do some other things. So I'll cut this video for now, and then when I start doing more work for this engine assembly, I'll make other videos, other clips. So I need to clean the oil pump. I don't need to, but I'd like to. And then I got a whole bunch of parts I'm going to make a video about, showing all the parts together. Somewhere in these boxes are valve stem seals, so I need to get a valve stem seal puller so that I can pull these valve springs out and then be able to pull that valve stem seal out. They're not hard to get out, but the spring is a little pain in the butt. So I just got to get the right tool for that. And then I have a new front crankshaft seal that I'm going to be pressing in. Here's the old one that came out. And I bought this 48mm huge socket to help me drive in the seal. Unfortunately, it's a little bit too big. I was hoping it would be one that kind of went inside. So once it flattens, then I'll just tap it through evenly all the way around. Gonna have some work to do to get this cleaned up. But all right, so that's it for the night. Appreciate everything. Thanks for watching, and I'll bring back some. I'll be back with some more video. Thank you. So I wanted to take a minute to go ahead and show the box that I, all the boxes of stuff that I got from S54 Rod. So there we go. So there are all the boxes. Lots of goodies in there. Lots of stuff that I need. A lot more than I thought I was gonna need. So there's that. Yeah, I definitely didn't plan on going that deep into it. Yeah, so we're gonna do one of those transition things because I want to, like, you know, show all the stuff off. So all right, so we have a ton of stuff from FCP Euro. Let's go ahead and get this unpacked. All right, so here we are. We are all unboxed, and this is everything I could get out of the boxes. I didn't unpack every single little thing because I want to keep it nice and clean until I'm ready to use it. But yeah, we can take a look here. A lot of necessary stuff, of course, like the head gasket, valve stem seals. There's a lot of stuff in here. It's, while you're in there, you might as well go ahead and do it, of course. And then timing chain guides, gaskets, power steering lines, fuel filter, rear main seal, clutch kit, water pump, radiator, coolant hoses. I have a good expansion tank, so I plan on reusing that with a line. We got some with the rod bearings, bolts, the new bolts, Vanos hardware, new lines. This stuff didn't come in from FCP Euro, but I put it in the picture in the video. It's from Bison. I like using their seals and their Vanos refresh kits. And we have the subframe bushing stuff that's going on there. We have the stock, brand new, genuine subframe bushings. There's front engine mounts up there, rear diff mounts, diff fluid kit. There are the rear trailing arm, or actually the rear upper and lower control arm bushings are back there. The front control arm bushings. There's some sway bar links in there. The only thing I don't have that I'm going to get later are the rear trailing arm bushing. I want to get the monoball kit from it's a local person here in Georgia, Synchro Design Works. So I want to get their rear trailing arm kit, which is really nice. And we got the oil pan stuff back there, oil pan gasket, oil pan bottom center circle gasket, and then there's a BMW valve cover gasket sitting in that box back there. You got your belts, tensioners, every single O-ring and gasket that I could think of that is going to need to be replaced. Front engine seal, lots of washers and copper washers, crush washers, stuff for the power steering. That's a lot of power steering stuff in there. There's a new power steering coupler. So anyways, yeah, just a lot of stuff. And I look forward to getting it all installed. So hopefully I can get a lot of this recorded so to show you guys how it goes on. But yeah, thank you, and we'll be back. All right, guys, it's, well, I guess you can't tell if it's been a while because these clips are back to back, but it's been a while for me. A lot's going on, and I'm not able to document every single little piece of this, but at this time, I want to jump back into the engine build. So right now what I've got is the cylinder head for the S54, and one of the things I wanted to do was a top end refresh. So I replaced all of the valve stem seals. And so if we flip over to here, I wish I could have documented it, but I was in a huge rush to get stuff done. Some things have changed. But right now, and it took me a while, a little bit here and there. Like one night I would do 2 or 4 valve stem seals. But it was a good learning experience. I learned a lot. It's very rewarding. And so I made sure to document, or not document, but for myself, I wrote down and placed everything in the proper order. And I took out all of these valve springs and retainers. and changed the valve stem seals with brand new BMW ones and replaced everything, and the keepers went back in, and it really wasn't too bad, just took a long time to do. And so the cylinder head is done. The only thing I need to do now is take some compressed air and blow air through all of the oil chambers, any hole that I can find. And then I think right here on this side, this is the intake side, there's coolant passages. You blow air through there, and then what you're doing is I'm going to blow and make sure I get any oil, any metal shavings that are in here left over from the machine shop work will get blown out. So that's my goal, and that's what I'll do. The last thing I do before I bolt the head on to the block. So now what I'm doing is I'm working on the block. I've done a lot of cleaning. I mean, it wasn't like a super clean job, but if I can see the tops of the pistons, I'm fine with that. The last thing I need to do on this block right here before I put the head on is I need to get a fine razor and go and just scrape lightly and get every little piece of gunk that I can get off of, and then get a very, very fine Scotch-Brite pad, like the finest you can find, and smooth that out. Get it all smoothed out, and then once that's done, the head can get bolted on with the new head gasket. Right tonight, I'm working on getting all of the timing chain guide stuff installed tonight. So I just wanted to show you a little quick something. Is not many people change out these things. These are the lower chain guide, lower timing chain guide, lower oil chain guide, and then here's the other one right here. And they have little circlips that go with them. I ordered new ones of those. One thing that these are things that people don't normally replace because they really don't wear out, but if you have everything pulled apart, spending $50 to $75 on some new chain guides is not the end of the world. But one thing I'm glad I did is once you pull them off, there are O-rings, which I didn't know about. There's one O-ring here. I just installed that one. And there's an O-ring here. And so I'm glad I removed the old ones, because here's the old ones. They literally just broke because they're so dry and brittle. Isn't that funny? So one more thing that I'm glad I got to do while this thing was apart. Once I get these new guides put in, I'll come back and let you get a glimpse of what it looks like all put together. But once I can get that installed, then I can focus on getting the timing cover back on, which I've already pressed in the new front timing case crank seal. So that's ready to go. There's new chain guides here, another one here, another one here. Oil pump will be ready to go back on. So we got a lot of things going on here. You wouldn't believe it, but that is the original factory timing chain and oil pump chain. I did a lot of cleaning and they came out looking brand new, which is amazing. But all right, I will come back when I have more to update. Okay, and we're back. Done a little bit more work. I have two new timing chain guides right here, both lower ones, and new circlips. And this one actually has two O-rings that I showed before. So I installed two new O-rings there, the different sizes. Installed a new oil pump chain tensioner. So these are installed. And then while I had everything off, I used some chemical dip with a, what do you call it? Scotch-Brite, and just scraped off all of the oil varnish. So I think it looks a little bit better. Not that anybody will ever see it, but it's there. Get this all right. So now I wanted to get everything clean so that I'll have a nice clean mounting face for the timing case metal gaskets that I'm going to put back on. So I got new ones. I'm going to install those with the timing case, and I cleaned off the nose of the crank hub. I'll use a little bit more brake clean right there. And then I used an air compressor right there. And I went through and I blew air through every single oil and coolant passage just to clear out any dirt, debris, some stuff right there. And it all just came out the bottom down here, which is pretty cool. So I wanted to get this all ready to go. And I'll probably go ahead and do it one more time. I'm gonna, like I said, clean this off really good. Obviously some stuff's gonna fall into these chambers here, and then I'll blow it out one more time with that machine right there. But I'm gonna go and get this timing case cover on, and then we'll be back. Okay, it is another day. I had to get some sleep last night, but made some more progress. So let's check it out. What we have here is I've gotten the timing chain installed with the new guides. Got the timing cover put in. The front crank seal installed around the crank hub. Oil pump has been bolted on with the oil pump chain and the tensioner, and the oil pump nut tightened down to 25 Newton meters. Everything is nice and torqued to spec. Nice clean oil pump assembly. And right now at this point, I've gotten the deck is cleaned. There's some staining that you won't be able to get rid of, but it's smooth and clean. Everything's been blown out. And same thing for the cylinder head. Quite a bit of aluminum shavings came out when I used compressed air to blow out all the coolant chambers and the oil chambers. So I'll wipe this down one more time before bolting it on, but it is ready to go. So that's going to be my next task, is getting this thing prepped so that I can get the cylinder head bolted on today, hopefully, and the camshafts installed. Trying to get as much as I can done today. But that was a quick update for where we're at, so I'll be back with more info. Alright, so I got a lot done, and I'm really sorry that I'm not able to show you the step-by-step. I myself used a ton of great step-by-steps to get this done. And I will make sure to give credit where credit is due. I will put the links to all the DIYs that I have followed on YouTube, and I'm very grateful for all the people that did all that, for people like us to be able to do this, because it helped so much. Some really great videos out there already. But this is what I got done, and I feel super accomplished. So here we have a pretty complete long block, minus the Vanos stuff. I'm waiting to get some Vanos tools back. I borrowed my friend's before. He needed them back, and he's not done with them. So when he's done, he'll lend them back to me. But what we have here is the front timing case cover on with the seal. Everything torqued to spec. The harmonic balancer was tightened on there. I followed all of the torque spec guides online for it. I got the cylinder head installed with a brand new BMW head gasket. I made sure to use the proper sealant right here on both sides where the timing cover meets here. And then same thing for the oil pan right here. You can see it right there. But I got a new oil pan gasket on there with the oil pan. I had to take the engine off the stand earlier today and put it on a cherry picker so that I could get access to the rear main seal. And so I got the rear main seal installed, new gasket in there, new bolts, and sealant as well. You always use the silicone sealant anytime there is gaps or joins in the casing. And so now we have a freshly sealed engine. Camshafts are back in, installed. The head bolts were fun. I followed the instruction guides online where the crazy torque sequence, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 1 million, whatever. It's all over with trying to distribute the load. But it was fun and a great learning experience. And so I got the head bolts installed, followed the 30 Newton meters plus 90-degree torque angle, and then a second sweep of 90-degree torque angle. That all went fine. My wife helped me. She held up this chain for me so that I could lower the cylinder head onto the dowel pins. So that was very nice. Everything's got assembly lube on it. I was able to get the camshafts installed without the special tool, following another great DIY online that I'll link for camshaft removal installation. Made things a breeze. And what do we got here? Oh yeah, all new valve stem seals. So that was nice, and everything's been cleaned and washed and degreased. So this engine looks so much better than it did when I first got it. It was just cruddy and oily and varnish everywhere. This looks a whole lot better. So I'm very happy with how this engine's coming along. I even did things like I took off the ground cable and I cleaned all the crud off of it. So it looks a lot better. I cleaned the bracket for the oil, the Vanos accumulator, and the accumulator itself. I scrubbed the block to get most of the grease and crud off of it. So really it's just getting the Vanos installed, getting the engine timed. I do need to do some work on the valve cover. It's bad. Kind of scary. So I got a lot of cleaning to do with this. I'm going to clean this inside chamber here to get any crud that's in there, because that can cause oil consumption. Replace these spark plug tube gaskets. So I'm going to chem dip treat this and power wash it the best I can, top and bottom. It's got a lot of oxidation on it, so it's not the prettiest valve cover, but this is a budget build, so can't fork out the money for everything I want. Can always change that out later. Yeah, so there's the SMG system, and that is going to go in that. And there was a little update. We were able to move the wagon from outside inside. It's on wheel dollies right now, so I'm able to move it around how I please. And when I'm ready, I'm going to get it on quick jacks, so that we can start getting to work. So we'll start with the drivetrain. And do as much as I can. I'm going to strip the whole interior out, get everything stripped out so I can get all the wiring done, get the dashboard ripped out, carpet, door panels, headliner, sunroof. You know, these rails right here, they're going. I know a lot of people with wagons love these things. If you see a wagon, they always have these, but I have the delete rails, the drip rails that go here. So that's what I'm going to do. Got some updated taillights. We'll see how far we get with the body work. I know I got a lot of stuff in here to go through. A lot of black interior stuff. But it should be fun. Things should start moving quite fast now that I'm getting this engine squared away. I do got some more cleaning to do with. There's a big pile of stuff over there. I got the whole rear subframe I need to disassemble, clean it, new subframe bushings, new rear trailing arm bushings, diff bushings, drive shaft stuff. But all that stuff is stuff that can be knocked out in a weekend. Just got to dedicate a weekend and just focus and get it knocked out. Transmission, I have changed the input shaft seal in it, and then it has a new guide tube. It has a new pivot pin. I'm going to change the detent springs in it. Might as well, since the transmission's out. And then once I'm done opening and closing things on it, I'm going to degrease the heck out of it and wash it the best I can. Get the inside of the bell housing clean. Get the outside clean. This was the Northern M3, so it has a lot of oxidation on the aluminum, but it's fine. The transmission's functional and it works good. I've driven it before. All right, so that's the update. I will add this to my other videos, and I don't really know how I'm going to do these videos. I don't know if I'm going to do a bunch of small ones or maybe just one big one. Not sure yet. But thanks for watching. All right, another day, of course, and I just want to give another update. The last update I did was all the engine stuff, like the long block was pretty much completed, and then I showed off a little bit of the wagon behind me. So now, I still don't have the Vanos tools yet, but I went ahead and did the complete Vanos job using the, I don't know how to pronounce it, Bison or Bason tools, which was all the Vanos seals, the sealing plate gasket, the rattle kit, all new bolts. So I'll go ahead and show it to you. I've completed the job. I've replaced all the seals, and it's all assembled, ready to go. So we'll go and turn around here. So this is my Vanos setup that I have ready to go. We got the chain guide right here, new Bison chain guide, and then of course on the motor you saw I replaced the two lower and the oil pump chain guide. So all of it's been replaced. It's all brand new, which is a good feeling. New gaskets. I got everything from SMG and documented everything and got all the little part numbers. So I got new copper gaskets there, new gaskets on a new timing chain tensioner with the new gasket there, new cam bolts, inner and inner and outer. For these are from Lang Racing. These are a little bit more hardened over the OEM ones, oil resistant, Loctite. I got my intake and exhaust hubs with the gears and all the washers underneath them. I have them all in order, ready to go. Everything's been cleaned with chemical cleaner. Everything's been thoroughly cleaned with brake cleaner. Every oil passage has been sprayed out. The whole Vanos system has been cleaned. I dipped the complete Vanos unit. I disassembled it, got everything open, dipped it, scrubbed it, cleaned it with brake cleaner, and then sprayed every single oil passage and made sure there was fresh brake clean coming out of it, no more oil and chemical dip. Then once everything dried, I went to work on installing all of the Bison seals. I got the rattle kit installed in the splines right here, rattle kit here. I have a re-drilled oil pump disc, so I kept the factory oil pump disc. I've heard so many horror stories. I've also heard good stories of people that run Bison oil pump discs with no issue, but I've also seen some bad ones where people give up their stock ones in exchange for another stock one that was re-drilled, or a different one. And of course, some of those stories are that they don't achieve proper Vanos pressure. So I made sure to keep my original one and just get it re-drilled so that I can keep all of my original parts, because I know that they were working fine before. And then we have the Vanos solenoid. It's been cleaned, and all this stuff, new sealing plate with new O-rings, new Vanos for the accumulator and the line with new gaskets here. These are the banjo bolts. We got a new accumulator line right here and a new gasket right there. So all this is ready to go. I'm very excited, hopefully, to get this installed, maybe sometime this weekend, maybe next week. These are not brand new. Remember, this is a budget build, so trying to save where I can if I don't have to. These look pretty fresh. They don't look old and used. The electrodes look good and clean, so I'm going to reuse them. The car was running fine with them before. I cleaned them up a little bit, so they should be fine. And then the coil packs, these are Bosch units. We'll run them for now. I may change them out later, but again, they weren't misfiring or doing anything weird, so go and keep those. Yeah, so we'll come over here, and some of the work that I did was, for now, I reused my original cam sensors, the intake cam sensor and the exhaust cam sensor. I cleaned them up really well. They look pretty good. They weren't throwing any codes before, so I'm reusing them. However, I did change the O-rings, the large green rubber O-rings. I got new ones from BMW because those do tend to leak, and those are one of the pain point leak points that you get. So I replaced those. Same thing for the crank position sensor. I cleaned it up. It was pretty low, looked pretty clean, so I got that all cleaned up. So anyways, I'll be back in the next one. My battery's running low. Let me get it recharged. We'll see you guys soon. Okay, so for you guys, it's only been a few seconds or a few minutes, but for me it's been a few days, and I've been battling trying to get this cylinder head in time with the block. The last video that I recorded showed, that I got the cylinder head installed, and then I got the cams installed, and then I needed to install the Vanos, but I didn't have the timing tools. So I picked up I borrowed a set of timing tools, a timing bridge, and the locking pin for the crank, and was trying to follow the BSON instructions, and I just wasn't doing something right. And initially I was getting interference from the piston 2 exhaust valves actually hitting the number 2 cylinder when it was coming up at the top of its stroke. So asked a few people, they couldn't figure out what it was. The only thing I could think of is I did something wrong. So I took everything back apart, Vanos wise, got the cams back in time, got the crank back in time, and then methodically went through the BSON instructions one more time. I guess what happened was I probably had some slop in the exhaust cam being too retarded, and because the exhaust cam was too retarded, when I tightened everything down and tried to rotate all the way around, the exhaust valves just were hitting. So once I got rid of that slop and took out the excess retardation in the exhaust cam, I was able to get everything into time. So now I've gotten the Vanos all buttoned up, back together. I've ran through probably 30 different rotations, and every time my timing tools line up perfectly, which is exactly what I'm looking for. So we'll turn it around here. Here we go. We have the block assembled, cylinder head installed, head gasket installed, Vanos installed, everything nice and clean and in time. Timing bridge is in place. Everything falls into nice. I've rotated this like 30 times. So I feel pretty confident it's in time now. Everything just drops in nice and smooth. So yeah, there's my update. I feel pretty accomplished. Still got a lot more to do, but the engine is looking really good. So hopefully I can go ahead and get all the accessories cleaned up, get the valve cover cleaned up because it's pretty gross on the inside, a lot of varnish on the inside of the valve cover, and get everything installed. But I went ahead and installed all the Vanos stuff, the Vanos line, accumulator, new line, new bolts, new crush washers, new timing tensioner. So everything should be good to go for now. Oh, I also installed a new CPV, constant pressure valve. Luckily I had one. I couldn't find it. I knew I had it. I found it in a drawer, and I was able to get that installed. Got all new O-rings installed for the cam sensors. New O-ring for the crank position sensor. So the next thing will be cleaning up the oil filter housing, getting that installed with a new gasket. Get the water pump installed. Get the accessories installed. Power steering pump. Get the headers installed. And get the ITBs cleaned up and get those installed. And get this thing ready so I can get it off the engine stand. Go ahead and put on the flywheel, pilot bearing, and then mate the transmission to it. Still got a lot of work to do on the transmission. So for the transmission, it needs a lot of cleanup. It's very disgusting. So I'll get to that when I get a nice day off of work and get everything cleaned up. But for the transmission, I took care of a lot of the important stuff. I replaced the input shaft seal, which is behind this new guide tube. I installed a new fork pin in the back. I have a new clutch fork and a spring to go installed as well, and a new throw-up bearing. I'm going to get all this gross stuff cleaned out. I also went ahead and installed 2 new detent springs. I heard and read that a lot of times these springs go bad or they break Luckily I pulled mine out and they weren't broken, but went ahead and swapped them anyways. There was one behind this one right here, and there was one behind this little plug right here. Since this is an SMG transmission and I'm going to keep it SMG, there was really only 2 springs to change out, which is right here. There's another one, it's really expensive, and I'm not going to mess with it for now. But it goes behind this plate right here. I'm not going to disturb that. Based on the other 2 springs not being broken and looking good, I feel like that one's going to be okay as well. And there's 2 more springs that would normally go here on a non-SMG transmission for the bell housing, but I don't have those springs because this is just an SMG transmission. So once I get all this cleaned up, looking a lot cleaner, then I'll get this bolted to the engine and we should be good to go on that. Then the fun part comes working on this thing. Hopefully I can get started on the wagon. Right now I have it on wheel dolly so I can move it around. This thing is just filled with parts though. Lots of old stuff that's gonna get thrown away. Like this box right here is filled with all of the engine stuff from the M54 2.5 liter that's right here. Previous owner overheated it, they said, and they took it apart and just lost interest and never did anything to fix it. So I'll be pulling this engine and scrapping it, getting all this cleaned up. And then once I get all this cleaned up, I can go ahead and get started on dropping the S54 in. Once I get this pulled out, before I do anything, I'll get the whole interior pulled, I'll get the seats out, the carpet out, the headliner, get it bare, expose the wiring harness, and then I can get started on retrofitting all of the SMG specific wires and the PDC wiring so I can add PDC to this car. But yeah, so that's my update, and I'll be back with more as I get them. Thanks.